Nagina, how are you doing?
I'm so good, Mariza. I'm looking so forward to talking with you today more.
I know. I think the last time we connected was, I want to say earlier this year, like way early this year, or maybe it was in the fall. Girl, I feel like now that we're in Perry, who knows? It can just be a
Exactly. I just forget things. I never thought I would be that person, but I just forget words just in the middle of a sentence. So, yes.
That has probably been the most disruptive symptom I've had. Okay, besides the irritability, is the lack of word recall in the middle of a conversation or an interview, because you know what it feels like to fire. Like your brain is firing, you can pull that long term memory, and then you lose it or it sputters a little bit. And it's like, no, give me my brain back.
Yes, I know. I want to do some mind stretching exercises. I'm like, should I do crossword puzzles? Like, what do I need to do to keep my mind fresh? But it's really just this I feel like it's going to pass, or I feel like we're going to work through it. We're going to find the solution.
We
So,
are. We absolutely
yes.
are. One of the things I'm leaning into, because I'm like, I want to pleasure stack and support my brain at the same time. And so I'm just reading a lot. I'm reading a lot of books. I'm listening to a lot of books. And I feel like, I'm computing, I'm taking in information, I'm learning. And I feel like that's a very active process. I also find us being active can be really, really helpful in helping to support our brain too.
Oh, definitely. And also reducing cortisol and just feeling good, just feeling more at ease in our bodies, all of those things. I've been having a craving for nature,
Me too.
and I've been executing on that. And since I didn't realize I was in perimenopause when I started craving it, and also craving reading, and just I realized it was keeping me calm, and it was just like alleviating the stress that happens in life with a family, with work, with all the things. But doing those things for myself was what I needed. I couldn't go. I started not being able to go without it.
I agree. We're right next to the beach, and I know you're pretty close to the beach too. And I was just gonna go to the stairs because we have to take little stairs. We live on the cliff, and I was just gonna look at the surfers. And then because I was like, okay, I need to get back and I need to prep for our interview and do a little intro outro for a podcast. I had my deliverables, right? I was like, okay, I have these things I gotta do. And I was looking and it was low tide. So the beach was wide open. Like I could walk it. And I was like, you know what? I am choosing grounding. I am choosing nature. I am going to walk the beach for 5 minutes and then I'll go back home and do all the things. Because the thing is those things aren't going anywhere. They're going to get done. It felt so good to be on the beach. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, I agree. I was at the beach at the Jersey Shore a couple weeks ago, and I used to just be fine with sitting on the beach, or I would go in the waves if it was really warm. But now I knew that I knew I needed to be active. So I would sit down for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and then I would get up and I would walk on the sand, and I would make sure I would walk for around 30, 40 minutes on the sand. And I'm always making sure I get more steps in now. And that is just making me feel better, helping improve my metabolism. But I didn't used to have the time or want to just walk. And these are things that it's just we're integrating it into our day. But I loved walking on the beach. I loved looking at the waves. I felt so calm. I would listen to a book while I was walking. So I was expanding my mind. And it just was amazing. It's something I wouldn't necessarily do 5 years ago, but I love it now.
I hear you. Yeah, we're going to be talking about step count today, especially after meals. Now, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't listening to a personal development book or even a health book, girl. I was finishing a 3-part trilogy romantic fantasy book. Okay, that's what I was finishing today.
Oh, well, that's amazing. Good. That's exciting in a nice way, you
It
know?
was so good. I was like, you got those last 50 pages. And I, as a mom, just like you, reading is a real luxury. I usually only get to do that before bed. But if I'm going on a walk, sometimes I just want to listen to my book. So I have books on Audible too.
Yep.
That I'm just clocking. So yeah, on that walk, I think it was like a 30-minute walk total, which is I usually my walks are 20 minutes or less. I usually between interviews or between
Mhm.
something, I try to walk 4 times a day, give or take. I find that when I can break it up, I have more stable blood sugar, which we're going to be talking about. That's one of my favorite things to do. Watching my CGM just get really straight because I'm getting these little walking snacks in throughout the day.
Nice. And that's so doable, 20 minutes. minutes. I mean, that's so it's like, it doesn't have to be overwhelming, and we can find it, even if it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, it's just like walking and getting that movement. It almost feels like so easy, but then you got the movement and you also feel lower stress. So that's amazing.
It's
That's
a
great
win-win.
thing.
Now, the
Yes.
question I was going to ask you, but I feel like we lockstep in so quick and so easily. And I think we talked a little bit about like what you've been experiencing in perimenopause, but you and I were talking about how we're both in it, and it is very clear we are in it. I always say, like, what you'll know when you're in perimenopause, it's often when you're really in it. Like, you can't excuse it away. Like, you can't be like, oh, well, it's just because I'm busy, or oh, I'm tired because I'm a mom, or da 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 da. No, like, it all starts to add up. And so I would love for you to share kind of what has been your experience and what have been the things that you have pivoted into to really help support your body through this transition.
I mean, you know, and like conversations like this and like this series that you're doing is just so necessary, and has been missing because I didn't really know what it was, and I don't think a lot of women know what it is until you're in some form of some kind of pain or something that's different, that you're reaching out and trying to figure out what this is. Thank God there's so much more conversation about it now, but we really have to search it out in places like this. So, you know, this has really been my savior to hear what's happening with other people and to hear what I can do about it. So really what for me, I mean, I am fully in it. So I'm 47 and I didn't know I was in it, but now I look back and I probably was in it earlier, but I know that I hit it around age 43. And so what happened around then is that I just, like, first of all, I'm a weight loss coach. So I am very aware of what to do to lose weight, what to keep your metabolism high. And all of a sudden I was doing these things, and I actually worked really hard to get this body that I felt really proud of, that I worked hard for, and I was able to balance my blood sugar, keep it there. And then all of a sudden, like, I remember it was my 45th birthday and I was having this big party and I was wearing a red fitted dress at my party, but then like my weight was slightly going up, and I was working hard because I'm like, I want to look right for my party, for my pictures. And so that I got to this place that I was happy about, but it took me more work than it had the years before. And then over the next year, I overall gained about 10 pounds. Now for me, it didn't only happen in my belly. It kind of happened just like everywhere. It did happen in my belly, but it happened other places too. I just wasn't sure why my scale was creeping up. I didn't know what was going on. I felt like I was getting hit by a truck. I'm like, what is going on? Because my weight was creeping up. And then all of a sudden I started feeling like levels of stress for normal things, like things that I used to do so easily. I mean, for example, I have 2 children. I had a corporate job, and I also built my business on the side while I was working at my corporate job, working like 60 hours a week and traveling. I did all of that and it didn't faze me. And I had 2 tiny babies and toddlers. Then all of a sudden, my business started really growing. I started getting so many clients, and then all of a sudden the stress started hitting me. And I started feeling that, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm taking on so much. And I really needed to calm myself down in my business and ease out what I was doing. And I needed to relax more. I remember that's when I started adding more reading to my day. I started going outside. I started just being in my backyard. And I didn't know why. I didn't know what was going on. And I just needed more time for relaxation. Whereas a few years before that, I'd been doing 10 times what I was doing without it even touching me. So that was another thing. I felt like I was getting stressed out and I needed more calm to my life. And then the other thing that really shocked me, and I think the people around me, was that I felt like there was parts of me that were like back in puberty, but like different parts of it. So I just started getting rage, and I was getting mad, and I couldn't explain it. Like, I just wanted my kitchen to be clean. I'm like, why did you leave this on the counter? And it was like the biggest problem, whereas I'd been dealing with it for years and just like teaching people that live with me to put their stuff away. But all of a sudden it started really enraging me. And I felt like I had just reached my limit maybe, but now that I have done a lot of things to get to a place of much more balance, I'm not like that anymore. And so I can look back and reflect and say, wow, that really was a hormonal effect of what was going on. So these are, some of the things I felt. And the thing is, like, people around me, this is not really as commonly known. Like, we don't know when we're in it. We don't know what's exactly supposed to happen. Like, a lot of times hot flashes are associated with this. I didn't really experience that. I didn't have that aspect. And so I had all these other things and I didn't understand what was going on. So it's really hit me. And I can tell you, so some of the things I've done is I was like, first of all, just confused for years because I didn't know what was happening. And then I said, I need to do something about this. So I started researching, listening to things like this, listening to health experts, other health experts. And I found, okay, let me just go see what's up with my hormones. And here's the thing, Mariza, this is the thing that makes me the most mad of everything, is that I went to my doctor. Oh, and I was feeling low when I woke up in the morning. I was feeling just low. And I went to my doctor and I said, should I get on an antidepressant? Because all this stuff is happening that's creating stress in my life and I'm feeling really low. And I didn't know what to do. And so I'm like, should I get on an antidepressant? And I felt happy she supported me to get on an antidepressant. But I was like 44 when I went in there. I'm like in the middle of prime age for perimenopause. And it would have been so much better if I had someone that said to me, you are in perimenopause. You are 44 and you're feeling low. What we need to do is check your hormones and make sure that you are even. So what I did is I did get on this antidepressant and it just helped me stay calm. It didn't fix anything. It was kind of temporary while I was on it. In fact, it made me like, it helped me, but then it made me like separate from my life, kind of. Like I kind of, yeah, I was just like letting my life happen and I wasn't involved in it because I was so low stress. But then I realized that and then that started creating more weight gain, actually, the antidepressant. So I got off of that. And then I started researching about hormones. So I got a referral to my endocrinologist. And I said, I need my hormones checked, my estrogen, my progesterone, and my testosterone. And I had to ask for it because I was out searching for my own information from interviews like this. And that endocrinologist, who was about my age, and it was a woman, told me that it's really hard to test our hormones. They really can't get any information from it because it's so cyclical based. And I said, well, at least let me test my testosterone. And it's like, I had to ask so many times. And then she told me, even if we find anything low with your testosterone, we can't do anything about it. We can't prescribe anything for you. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to find someone that can do that. Just give me the blood test. So I got the blood test. It showed that I was a little bit low, but in the ranges that you find in regular medical centers, it's a range that's so big that you won't look low from their ranges unless you do more research. Right. So then I went to another place, a medical spa, and got my hormones checked. It turns out my testosterone was extremely low. So that was part of the reason I had massively low energy. I realized I wasn't able to build muscle for so long because I work out regularly. My muscle was, and then that's part of why my weight gain was happening, because my muscle was not there anymore. And then I found out that my estrogen was actually very high. So it was like high estrogen, and that was causing some of the weight gain. So from there, I was just like, I felt so thankful that I just had some answers. Something is happening. Something has happened. I'm not the same. I don't have the same like insides that I had before. And the one thing I regret that I didn't know is that I should have gotten my hormones checked in my 30s. So I had something to balance. Like I had a baseline. I tell everyone who's under 40 right now, go get your hormones checked so you know where you're supposed to be at, because this is going to happen to you and you're going to feel like you got hit by a truck, but at least you'll know what happened and you can work to get to that area again. But since that's happened, I've tried some different hormones. I tried some progesterone to help me, and then I also tried testosterone. I have to say, we have to do this in a balanced way. The progesterone actually made me gain weight. I gained 4 pounds in about 2 weeks, and it was 4 pounds of fat because we did an in-body analysis before and after. But then I came off of that and I just had to get my dosage right with my testosterone. And now in 1 month, I have built more muscle. Like I measure all my arms, my waist, my legs. I have built more muscle in 1 month than I've built in the last 2 years of going to the gym. And now I feel balanced. I have energy. I don't have anywhere near the amount of rage. Now I'm just working on flushing out some extra hormones to help decrease some bloating and inflammation that has come on just with perimenopause. So I'm easing out of it. I'm not totally, fully fixed yet, like fully feeling completely the same, but I'm feeling so much better. And there's hope out there, just for anyone that might be going through it right now. Like there's some things that we can do.
Oh, yeah, no, there's a lot of things that we can do. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story and just the journey that you've been on. And this is a lot of what you're experiencing, or what you experience is a lot of what women experience. Like, surprised that you weren't recommended birth control. And, because that's kind of standard of care when we think about perimenopause. I call it the perimenopause starter pack. Is, usually birth control, definitely an SSRI, maybe depending on if you're getting towards prediabetes, metformin, potentially late 40s, a statin to address the higher levels of cholesterol, because estradiol
Yes.
isn't being produced, so we're not using as much. So we'll see increased unfavorable ranges of lipids. We are pain medications, migraine medications. Like, it's often we're treating these things in a silo, when we have to realize that the reason why all this is shifting is that your hormones are declining, whether
Yeah.
it's testosterone or estradiol or progesterone. Like, and just figuring out what specifically works for you. Now, I personally take 400 milligrams of progesterone to manage what I call that deep level of insurmountable, like, doomsday energy, or the
Hmm.
perimenopausal rage. And lucky for me, I don't experience the bloat, I don't experience the weight gain on the progesterone, and it really does help ease out that stress response system. But I think you really nailed it, in the sense that what used to be easy, like a couple years ago, maybe it was even a year ago for you, like, you could just juggle all this stuff. Then you get here and everything feels so much harder. And I
Yeah.
think there's a deep frustration, because you know what you were capable of, like, not that long ago. And now things like picking up kids and juggling nighttime activities. I remember I had a moment, it was 43 years old too, it was last summer. And I was planning, I didn't realize that the big concussion I had right before, the week before, was playing into this, but I had been struggling months prior. So I was like, okay, it's got to be this other stuff that I'm dealing with. Maybe it was low, my thyroid wasn't dialed, something. But I remember it was my son's we celebrate half birthdays, because his birthday's in December. So his half birthday is always in June. I just love the idea of having like a little half birthday. It's a little birthday party. It's like 15 people, not a big deal. But that whole day, decorations, picking up the cake, all the things. I remember sitting on my stairs and I was like, why is this so hard? Like, I don't understand. Like, I planned his birthday party, the big 40, 50 people birthday party back in December, and it was a piece of cake. And now here I am 6 months later, and I can barely function to pull off a 15-person gathering. And I remember, I'll never forget that defining moment where I was like, something's wrong. Something's very
Hmm.
wrong, because this doesn't make sense. I should be doing this with like my hands tied behind my back and my eyes closed. Like, that's how easy it should be. Well, that's when I knew my progesterone levels had to be like just like so low that I was barely functioning.
Something changes and it's like you don't know, but some things just start to stress you out. And I feel like you are like this too, Marisa. Like, I just handle a lot. Like, that's what I do. I just have a lot
Yeah.
on my plate and I like it like that. But so I felt like I had to become a new person and add in all this other elements of being calm. And then I didn't understand why I couldn't just go anymore. And people always would say, take time to rest, take your time. But I didn't feel like I needed it. And then all of a sudden, I had to have it. And that's when I started realizing something's going on here. But the combination of the weight gain, the waking up feeling low, the very low energy, and also working out and seeing no results from it when I was always seeing results from it before. And also, we're going to talk more about this, but I mean, I lost 40 pounds 12 or 13 years ago from balancing my blood sugar and eating the right portions, eating the right foods. And I was doing the same things. And it's not like I gained, 40 pounds back, but like I was moving in the direction, but I was doing everything the same. So that's where, all the lifestyle aspects are important, but then there's many things. There's more things to start looking at too.
Yeah. I was thinking about your testosterone, and I think about like the one of the metabolic trifectas. About one, I probably the biggest lever I always tell people, which is directly tied to your blood sugar, is making sure that you are at the very least maintaining muscle mass, but please do everything you can to build it, because insulin resistance starts in the muscle. And so if our
Yes.
muscles aren't able to take in that glucose, you're gonna start to see that belly fat, you're gonna start to see the scale rise up. Or if you do the body scan or the DEXA, you're going to notice that fat is going to increase in the body. And so I'm excited that we're going to get to talk about that. But I was thinking about that trifecta, like, well, what do we do to build muscle? One, please, 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 50% of us by the time we're 50 years old have a way less testosterone than we think. So one, please go test your testosterone levels. And yes, there is no FDA approval for testosterone. And honestly, I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen in the next 10 years, but it can be compounded. It is available. So number one. Two, I love creatine. I don't know if you're supplementing with creatine,
Yep,
five grams of creatine. It's in my coffee. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And then I love basically essential amino acids. So, and then
Yep.
hitting my protein numbers. So those are
Nice.
okay, this guy's not a trifecta. It's like a 4-piece plan, but so much of what I do every day is really about like, how do I build more muscle? And so
Oh
I would love
yes.
to talk about that, but that really goes in tandem with balancing that blood sugar.
Yes, absolutely. And I see this every day that there's a lot of women that I work with that they're not necessarily exercising yet. Sometimes they don't have the energy. Sometimes they're not ready to add that in. They don't have the time for it, but I share with them that they need to eat protein, and we talk about exactly how much protein to add. And I'll talk about that today as well. But this is so surprising, but we look at their muscle mass, like on some smart scales that they have, and their muscle mass increases week over week just by adding protein. And what this is doing is this is creating more insulin receptors. We're noticing this, right? Like when you are in perimenopause, you understand that if you eat something that you ate like a few years ago, it's going to create a bloat and possibly a gain of a fat gain, like much more than it did before. And for the short term, you're going to see your weight go up on the scale. You're going to feel a bloating from something sometimes as simple as like a piece of pizza that you could easily have eaten before. Now it can create this level of bloat that you weren't seeing before, as an example. So when that's happening, our body is not able to process carbohydrates as easily. So when you eat carbohydrates, instead of it getting burned off, it's elevating our blood sugar, and our insulin is being released and pulling it into our cells to be stored as fat. And that's happening much more often when we're in perimenopause and then as we move forward in life. And so that's called insulin resistance. And so when we are building more muscle, what's happening is that we are creating more insulin receptors so that if our blood sugar elevates, it's not being stored as fat. It's being processed in the right way. So muscle is really important for managing our blood sugar because of that. Also, protein is important to build muscle mass. So what's helping for that? And then just building our muscle when you're lifting weights, when you're doing things that build your muscle, when you're actually actively building your muscle, it's pulling on your bone, and that is strengthening your bone. So that's preventing and helping decrease chances of osteoporosis, which will be happening if we don't take these steps, but we can prevent them. So adding protein, building muscle, and lifting weights that are creating a pull on your bones so that you're building your strength. And what that means is when we're in our 70s and 80s, we can sit down, we can get up, we can lift bags, if we fall, we may not hopefully get as much of a fracture as we would have if our bones weren't as strong and if we didn't have the muscles that we had. So all of this is very holistic health, but it's very, very life-changing if you can take these steps and work on balancing your blood sugar, first of all, starting with protein. That's the key thing.
Agreed. And I want to get into a little bit of detail, and I same with you. I work with women who are clocking, the most activity they're doing is 3,000 steps a day. And so we really just we get to work up. Maybe it's to 4,000 and 5,000 steps, but then nutritionally, I find that's the lever that we can pull together the easiest.
Yes.
Because we're eating no matter what. Like you have to make time to move your body. You're already planning the food that's going into your system. We just got to kind of dial it. So what I always tell women, it's 1 gram to 1.2 grams of pound of lean body mass on average. Some women may need a little bit more. So like for me, that would be like maybe 110 grams.
So, I mean, a lot of times, like what I recommend is like get more than what you're doing. I have this mantra called protein more. So have more protein than what you're having already and start with your breakfast. So work at getting 30 grams of protein into your breakfast. If you're able to get like 30 to 40, that's actually better. It's not going to create weight gain. There's nothing that's going to happen if you have that extra protein. In fact, it's really hard to get enough protein. 30 grams of protein for breakfast and then for each of your meals. But if really reaching 100, but actually I recommend 100 to 120 grams of protein for almost everyone. And it varies with your weight. Like you'll have more depending on what weight you are. You might have less depending on, but between 100 and 120 is very common, like at least as a starting point. And really that is pretty much where most people should be at, if not more. 30 grams in your breakfast, what that looks like is a lot of times it's very common to have like 2 eggs for breakfast and then maybe some toast. Like that can feel like a healthy breakfast. But 2 eggs, as you know, Mariza, is only 12 grams of protein. Each egg is only 6 grams of protein. So when you're only having 12 grams of protein, the result is that you have more sugar cravings. And that's another thing that's hitting many people in perimenopause is uncontrollable hunger or more sugar cravings because of the release of other hormones as well, like leptin and ghrelin. So that could be happening because of that, but it can also be because you just didn't eat enough protein. And when you don't eat enough of the right energy, your body starts craving quick energy, which is sugar. And so uncontrollable sugar cravings often comes from the fact that we're not eating enough protein first. We're not proactively eating protein. And one of the top ways that women are feeling satiated and really getting their metabolism going of the women that I'm around is by adding this 30 grams of protein to their breakfast, because that satiates them. So 30 grams is 2 eggs plus a cup of egg whites. So it's just a little bit more than, but you have enough fat with the eggs and you have the right amount of cholesterol with the eggs. So you're adding egg whites, which is a lean protein, and then also having about half a cup of berries on the side, which is adding fiber. And keeping you more full, moving food through our digestive tract. So that's an important breakfast, because then you'll find that you won't feel hungry a couple hours later. Like you can actually go all the way to lunch. You could also do 2 eggs with Greek yogurt or 2 eggs with cottage cheese, or you could do a protein smoothie where you have protein powder, you have a non-dairy milk, because dairy does cause the bloating and it prevents, a lot of weight loss. And a lot of times in perimenopause and menopause, we can find that our bodies are not absorbing certain things as easily. But if you do a non-dairy milk, a protein powder that gives you 30 grams, you can add a half to 1 cup of strawberries or any other berry. Strawberries just taste really good. Flaxseed, which gives you a lot of fiber and healthy fats, 2 tablespoons of that. That's going to help keep you really full. And then if you want to add a little bit of mint in there, it gives you just a little extra flair. And it also helps decrease sugar cravings when you have that scent of mint. So that's a nice, what I call a metabolism boosting mint and berry smoothie to have in the morning. And it satiates you, either that, the egg breakfast or Greek yogurt, and just add in some protein powder in your Greek yogurt to bring it up to 30. And then you really start your day on a great foot. And I also love to advocate adding cinnamon into our coffee, which helps lower blood sugar and really helps to alleviate sugar cravings, because you're not getting that insulin release, but you're getting that sweetness from the cinnamon. This is a number one way to start our days, is with a protein more breakfast using real foods that actually taste good. Like all of these things taste amazing. I love having all of these things. And you're going to just be building your metabolism because you're building your muscle mass, and you're also decreasing your sugar cravings. And so really getting ahead of them is the key.
I agree with that. All of that. I think your breakfast sets the tone. You're moving from a breakdown state to finally refueling those muscles. It is the move. Now, when it comes to smoothies, I am very much a double scooper. So I'm hitting 40 grams out the gate. And I love that I can just knock out the 40 grams from first thing in the morning. So smoothies are a big thing that we make, but this morning, so I had eggs, I had some veggies, I had some organic raspberries, and then I am completely dairy free. So I had a dairy free yogurt. So I'm not able to do Greek yogurt, but I put another scoop and a half. So I put 30 grams in my yogurt with chia seeds and berries. And that was my breakfast. I had 2 eggs. I had that. So I was probably closer to, I guess, about a little over 40 grams is what I hit this morning for breakfast. Always my goal is if I can hit 40 out the gate, but 30 is an amazing goal. I just like to know that I've got that in the bag.
Yes, absolutely. And it's actually so much easier when you can do that in the morning, because this is the other thing is like if you're not getting it in the morning, then other hunger comes over, just like your body starts craving other foods throughout the day. And it's easier to add those fast burning carbs, which do turn to fat and do create and are not getting processed in our bodies like they used to be. But I agree, like adding that up front in the morning and then lightening your day as you go on, you'll actually see that at nighttime, you'll have, for anyone that has cravings, they have less cravings at night if they front load their day. And because our body needs, see, this is another thing that is happening is that we are like in perimenopause and menopause, like we've all been taught, we've kind of trained ourselves not to eat as much. And especially in midlife, sometimes our appetite does go down. So there's sugar cravings that can increase on one end, but in general, our appetite can go down, or we think our appetite can go down. That's because our metabolism may be decreasing. So we can actually physically raise our metabolism by eating more and eating more of these foods that we're talking about, eating more protein, also eating more veggies. And so when you eat more of these good foods, then you're going to find that you're going to actually burn more fat, because our bodies need a certain amount of calories by the end of the day. And so if you're feeling sugar cravings or cravings at night, it's because you didn't give your body what it needed during the day, and now it's asking you for that at night. But if you're more kind of structured or front load things, you'll find that those cravings start to subside. And especially when you get your sleep in, you're not going to have those cravings as they may feel. They're not going to be as powerful. That you can actually get rid of your cravings by learning how to eat like this.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that myth. I mean, that was a myth that I grew up with, that we need to get smaller in midlife. We need to eat to be smaller. And I'll tell you what, thin is not the name of the game here. Like muscle is the armor of longevity. And so if we're eating little amounts, like you're saying, and I see this a lot with women, we get weaker, we lose our muscle, and then we lose our capacity for longevity. So this is not the time to double down on teeny little meals. Like we really need to hit those protein numbers. We need to hit that fiber so that we actually can build out that muscle armor to keep our bones healthy. And at the end of the day, like you talked about, I want to be able to sit up. I want to be able to throw my luggage in the overhead compartment. I want to be able to pick up my son, even when he's 10 years old, if he needs me to. Those are the things I'm thinking about. Like, how do I make sure I have power and strength and resilience? And my eating less is definitely not going to get me there.
So that's so true. Absolutely. And that's something that we're taught. Here's another, in addition to that, the thing is, if we're eating less, we're actually staying there. This happens in perimenopause. It starts in perimenopause and it continues through menopause. Is that if you're not eating enough, your body will just stay stuck at the weight that it is. Like you're not even going to, if you want to lose weight, you're not even going to be able to lose weight. And so this is the thing that really triggers women to know something is going on, and why eating more is actually the right answer, starting in perimenopause through, till after menopause. Because right now our body is like, it needs more energy. Our hormones are decreasing, as we've been talking about. It needs all the energy that it can to give our bodies the fuel and the building blocks to make the right amount of the hormones that we are able to produce. So if we undereat, not only are we decreasing our muscle mass faster, but we're also staying stuck in terms of our fat loss, because it's not healthy to have a certain amount of fat. Like if you have the right amount of fat and you're building muscle, that's ideal. So we're naturally gaining visceral fat in perimenopause, which is very unhealthy, as we know, and is the source of many diseases. So we want to work on getting rid of that, but it won't budge if you're not eating enough. And this is very counterintuitive, but the reason that this is happening is because when we don't give our body enough calories, then when we do eat, our body's holding onto it even more, because you left it in a starvation mode. So now it's storing more fat instead of increasing metabolism and burning more calories, because you're giving it the right amount of food. And so, one of the main things after eating 30 grams of protein in the morning, 30 to 40 is even better, absolutely. And making sure you're hitting your protein or prioritizing protein, is to make sure that you're eating enough to get your metabolism higher, because then once you're eating enough, you can burn more fat as well. And so eating more of the right things is going to solve so many challenges that come up in perimenopause. And then there's also the other things that we're talking about around hormones and around lifting and things like that. But lowering your blood sugar, but eating enough is going to take you very far. And it's kind of like a foundation that if you skip these things and you do the other things, it's going to feel like kind of an uphill battle, and you may or may not get to where you want to get to, but it's going to feel a lot harder than it has to, and it's not going to be as natural.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would love to have you speak into some of your other favorite ways to kind of keep our blood sugar stable. Like we talked about some big ones, right? Making sure we're building muscle, eating protein, fiber, kind of front loading in the beginning of the day. So that really metabolically healthy breakfast, even adding things like cinnamon and those types of things can help stabilize blood sugar. What else can we be thinking about? Because this is the thing. I mean, so many of us are struggling with insulin resistance. Perimenopause does not set us up to win here if we're just in default mode. We really have to become proactive, because by the time women are 50, a massive amount of us are seeing insulin resistance.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So this is, I'm so glad we're talking about all of these things, because these are things that we can do like right away. We can just learn about them and start doing them. So one of the biggest things that I have seen to balance blood sugar is to combine your foods in the right way. And so what that means is, so if this is very freeing actually, because if you have cravings for foods that you love eating, but you're realizing that it's causing bloating or it's causing weight gain, well, what's happening is that your blood sugar is spiking really quickly. And you're eating something that digests very, very fast. Usually it's a fast burning carb. So this could be something like bread, pasta, but it could even be fruit. It could even be a smoothie with more fruit than you necessarily need to have in it. And it could be lots of normal things that we even think are healthy, but they're spiking our blood sugar and then it's going down really quickly because our insulin is being released, creating that fat storage. And so what we're looking for is, how do we keep our blood sugar even? Or how do we keep it so that it's not spiking as quickly? Maybe it's going up, but it's coming, it's coming down over time. It's not going up and down very quickly, which is really the result. What's gonna happen is you're gonna feel a high energy and then a low energy, and you're just gonna know that fat storage that's what's happening right there. So combining foods like a carb with a healthy fat or a protein is instrumental in managing blood sugar and lowering blood sugar. And this is because fats and proteins digest much more slowly. Each of them do not spike our blood sugar as much as carbohydrates, which break down to sugar, do. Carbohydrates are not bad, and we should absolutely have carbohydrates. But if you pair a carbohydrate with something that's digesting more slowly, then you're not going to have that spike and you're not going to have that fat gain. So the other thing to really make this even better is to have healthier carbs. So really knowing and being aware of what are actual healthy carbs and what are healthy foods that sugar is actually hiding in. And that's a major conversation, because there's a lot of weight loss companies out there that are telling us that certain foods are healthy, but they're actually just processed versions of sugar that sound healthy. For example, granola bars, protein bars that are not high in fiber and have a lot of sugar in them. Even things like dried fruit. If you're eating dried fruit alone, it's gonna spike your blood sugar because fruit is dried at the height of its sweetness. That's why it tastes so good. But here's some ways to really alleviate that and still have dried fruit, or still have some of the other foods that you want to have. So if you're having dried fruit, like dried mangoes, dried cranberries, pair it with seeds or with nuts, because those are healthy fats. Just make sure you know how much seeds or nuts you're having, because fat is very caloric. So you just want to have one serving of it. So just look at the bag. It's usually around 2 tablespoons. Have around 14 grams of fat at a time. Pair it with a serving of the dried fruit. So that's one example. Another example is to have, so if you're having pizza is obviously going to spike our blood sugar.
Pizza.
What was that?
Just don't have pizza.
Yeah, pizza is also having issues because of gluten and because of all of the other things. But if it's happening because it's pizza night, and your kids want to get pizza, your husband wants to get pizza, I actually say, because I'm so deep into perimenopause right now, I actually just told my husband, I don't eat pizza. So can you order something else for me? Or like, I want this seafood salad, and I'm going to have like one piece of bread on the side. But if you are in the situation where you're eating pizza and you pair it with, make sure you're having a salad beforehand and have some protein in that salad. So have a seafood salad first, or have meatballs, and then have a smaller portion of pizza if you are in that situation, or if you want to have pizza. So have a smaller portion of that unhealthier food, but pair it with something that's digesting more slowly. And so those are just examples of what you can do. You can pair foods. And so one more thing that I think is a really helpful snack to have is to have, if you're craving a sweetness, or you're craving something around like 2 or 3 o'clock, a really great snack to have is, if you want to have an apple, but that is going to spike your blood sugar. Even though it's a fruit, it still has sugar in it. Have a smaller apple or half an apple, and have it with 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. So you're pairing the sugar or the carb that is from the fruit, and you're pairing that with the peanut butter. Or you can do a date, which isn't going to spike your blood sugar anywhere near as much as an apple, with 1 or 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. So pairing foods is very empowering, because you can still do some of the foods that you want, just have smaller portions of those carbs and have that, combined with something else. So that's going to really help keep our blood sugar stable, and also allow us to live a life of eating foods, with people around us. So
yeah, I mean, I always say don't eat carbs naked.
yes.
Don't eat carbs naked.
Yeah.
And don't eat them naked for snacks or for breakfast. Like you really want to,
Exactly.
it'll become a dessert really quickly. And I think the other thing, and if you are, wondering, okay, how do I do with this food? How do I do with that food? I always say numbers don't lie. And so one of my things that I absolutely love putting on patients is I love putting on continuous glucose monitors, just to see, like, for me, there's certain things like, girl, dried fruit. I could just look at a dried fruit and it's over, And so like, there's no amount of pairing with dry food for me. Like a friend of mine, and we were both ordering salads, and this particular salad comes with dried cranberries. And I was like, nope, there's no amount of protein on that salad that is going to save me from those cranberries, And so I think it's good to like know your numbers. As we become older, we just become if we don't dial in that muscle, we're not dialing that sugar, we're just more resistant to these types of things. So if you're concerned and you want to know more about your body, definitely recommending a continuous glucose monitor. The other thing that I love is I love blood sugar stacking. So I love taking berberine before a meal. I love pairing up food, really predominantly fiber and protein, with some carbs. And then I love taking a walk. So if let's say for instance, somebody did put some dried cranberries on my salad and I can't like work around them, that happens. And so I'll end up eating that, but I'm like, okay, get your booty moving for 15 minutes after, and that'll probably smooth out that blood glucose response.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. So it's like, okay, this is still something you can do if you're in that situation. Yeah. And then, I started adding walking during perimenopause, because I used to do a lot of only lifting, because I just always hated cardio. I'm just one of those people that don't like cardio. And so I've lifted for years, and it's given me the body that I wanted. And it felt so easy, because I would just go and lift, and I wouldn't have to run, and I wouldn't have to, I would do some running a little bit, like 5 or 10 minutes. But now I actually added so much more walking. I actually do get pretty much 10,000 steps a day. And sometimes I get more than that, which I was the person that was getting like 3,000 steps, because I just lifted, and then I ate right, and I just stayed at the right weight. But now in perimenopause, things can start to get more challenging in terms of moving your body and the effect that our body has. So getting to the 10K steps, but then also what I'm working on now is adding and making sure I'm in zone 2. So zone 2 is like your heart rate is not really high, where your cortisol is pumped up, which is where I used to be in my 30s if I was running, or in my early 40s. If I did do a run, I would just run for a little bit, and my heart rate would get high, and then I'd be done. But now I want to stay in that zone 2, which is basically 220 minus your age times 70%. So times 0.70. So when you're in your 40s, it's around 120. It's like around 120. Depending on exactly your age, you can go, you can do that calculation. So what that means is I found that I need to walk up hills to get there. And so I walk up hills, or I just go on the treadmill and I walk at level 5 for 20 minutes. And sometimes it feels like so freeing because I'm like, oh my God, this isn't even that hard. It's kind of enjoyable, but it's a little bit hard, but I can still, like, I'm not out of breath.
You
It's
can
just like
carry a
a nice
convo.
walk. Yeah, I can carry a conversation. Exactly. So it's kind of like me time, actually. Like, I love that time that I have with myself where I'm listening to things that I want to listen to, or I'm just taking that time by myself to do those walks. And then when I can, like right now, or, you know, whenever the weather is good, walking outside in the evening. I love walking like after 7 o'clock or in the mornings if I'm able to do that. So adding that walking in is a huge thing because we're not realizing our bodies are needing more movement than before. And it may be your lifestyle shift as well. Like maybe you're staying at home, maybe you're working at home, maybe you're not doing all the things you were doing before. That's part of it. But also I'm seeing that my body needs more because I actually have a tracker that showed me how many steps I was getting in my early 40s. And it was much, much less than I've been getting now. So the walking, I didn't need that level of activity before perimenopause. Now I do. So it's like a changed approach now also.
Yeah, I think it's a yes and it's with resistance training. So lifting the heavier weights and walking throughout the day, or zone 2 training as well. I mean, if you're really going to get sexy with it, sprint training, exercise snacks. I mean, but basically what I've learned wearing a CGM and putting CGMs on hundreds of women, that if you can move throughout the day consistently and do a little bit of that resistance training, like that is the sweet spot for us to dial our metabolism and to keep our blood sugar at bay.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like we've talked about so many things. Literally, for those of you that are watching, like if you even do one of these things that you weren't doing before, you're just going to be improving your life because these are real things that actually work. I mean, they make such a difference. And this is about when you hit perimenopause, it's almost like diets don't work. They stop working now. I mean, they used to work. They don't even work anymore. Mm-hmm. So we have no choice. If you haven't done this already, we have no choice but to have a healthy lifestyle. If you want to have fun, if you want to be active, if you want to feel like you have energy, it's all about taking these steps to have a healthy lifestyle. And it can actually be fun. It's not dreadful. Like it's fun to go for a walk. It's fun to kind of like know what to add to your day. And it's also fun to not be controlled by cravings and sugar and just to feel good with what you're eating, and then actually to see your bloating go down and to see any fat gain that you might have had to go down from a combination of blood sugar as well as getting your hormones checked. But hormones are not going to answer the problem if you don't have your blood sugar all stable. So It's not going to be like a quick fix. It's going to help.
Yeah. No, I agree. Nagina, honey, I loved how practical this was. I loved how doable this was. I mean, and literally any of you could go and start doing any of this right now. That's how practical it is. And these are the things, these are the pivots that are going to move the needle for you. I promise. These are the best longevity hacks that we're offering you today. Nagina, honey, where can we learn more about you, love?
Well, absolutely. So my website where I talk all about, I share lots of recipes. I share lots of food combinations is at masalabody.com. And I have a free sweet spice cheat sheet where I'll talk about the spice that's in your kitchen cabinet. It's a very common spice. You don't have to you don't have to go out and get it. It's nothing exotic. It's something you have. It helps to lower blood sugar and curb sugar cravings. And the cheat sheet includes 3 health benefits of using this spice, 5 no-cook ways to use it in your day, like adding it to things, and then also a fire-burning and fat-burning tea recipe using this spice. So it's the sweet spice cheat sheet, and so I know we'll probably have the link. It's at masalabody.com/sweet spice PDF.
Perfect. Thank you so much, honey. It's been such a pleasure. I just love this conversation so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you are ready to learn more about perimenopause and how to navigate with a lot of ease and grace, be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you can join our community. Don't forget to share this video with someone that you love, that you know is navigating the perimenopause journey as well, because they deserve to feel their best too. See you in the next video.